Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be so rich that you run out of places to hide your money? What if you controlled a drug empire that made billions every single day? This is the story of Pablo Escobar, a man whose wealth grew so massive that even he couldn't keep track of it. Let's dive into the life of this billionaire drug lord and find out how he built and lost an empire worth $30 billion. The humble beginnings of Pablo Escobar. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on December 1, 1949, in the small town of Rio Negro, Colombia. His family didn't have much money. In fact, they were so poor that Escobar's father, a farmer, couldn't even afford to pay for a proper education for his children. But Escobar had big dreams, dreams that went beyond the poverty he was born into. As a teenager, Escobar was already involved in petty crimes, like stealing cars and selling fake diplomas. These small-time scams were just the beginning. He was driven by a hunger for power and wealth. But what was his ultimate goal? Was it simply money, or was it control and domination? Was he trying to rise above the poverty of his childhood and prove something to the world? The entry into the cocaine business. In the 1970s, a new drug began to spread across the United States: cocaine. Escobar quickly realized that this was his golden opportunity. The drug trade was still in its early stages, and there was money to be made. But how did Escobar go from a small-time crook to the king of cocaine? He started by partnering with Colombian farmers and chemists to produce high-quality cocaine in hidden labs deep in the jungle. Once the cocaine was ready, he used private planes, some even from the US government, to smuggle the drugs into the United States. Escobar didn't just transport cocaine, he created a multi-billion-dollar empire around it. His business was so successful that by the early 1980s, he controlled 80% of the global cocaine trade. By the time he was in his 30s, Escobar's wealth had exploded. He had made his first million by 22, and soon was controlling entire airfields and shipping routes, making vast sums of money in the process. With the cash flowing in, Escobar's lifestyle began to reflect his newfound wealth. But how long could such an empire stay secret? The Medellin cartel, a powerhouse of the drug trade. Escobar's empire wasn't just about selling drugs. It was about power, control, and ruthlessness. He built the Medellin cartel, a criminal organization that was as powerful as it was violent. The cartel didn't just smuggle cocaine, it created a monopoly, controlling the entire cocaine supply chain from Colombia to the United States. Escobar's wealth was mind-boggling. At the peak of his empire, Escobar was making over $70 million a day. Yes, every single day. The profits were so large that Escobar didn't know what to do with it all. He even spent $1,000 a week just to buy rubber bands to keep the stacks of cash together. And when you're making that much money, what do you do with it? You start to buy things. Lots of things. From planes to luxury cars to entire islands. Escobar's wealth wasn't just in material goods, though. He started acquiring power and influence, making political connections with some of Colombia's most powerful figures. He even ran for Congress in Colombia in 1982 and won, further cementing his influence over the nation's politics. But was his political involvement genuine, or was it just another move to solidify his control? Escobar's lavish lifestyle. Pablo Escobar wasn't just a businessman, he was a man who loved to live large. He bought an island called Norman's Cay in the Bahamas, where he set up a massive drug operation. But that's not all. Escobar built a private airport, a harbor, and even a hotel on the island. He wasn't just running a drug empire, he was living in a world of luxury, a world that most could only dream of. Escobar's main estate, Hacienda Nápoles, was another example of his extravagant lifestyle. This lavish property was filled with exotic animals, including hippos, which were brought in from Africa. He even had a zoo with wild animals like giraffes, elephants, and flamingos. The sheer scale of his operation on this estate was mind-blowing. Escobar had private airstrips, dozens of guards, and enough wealth to rival a small nation. But what made him truly unique was his attempt to maintain a Robin Hood-like image. He built homes, hospitals, and schools for the poor in Colombia, particularly in his hometown of Medellin. To them, he wasn't just a drug lord, he was a Robin Hood figure, someone who took care of the less fortunate. However, this image was incredibly complicated as it also hid the violence and terror that his empire caused. Was Escobar truly trying to help the poor, or was this just a way to secure loyalty and power? The fall of Escobar's empire. As Escobar's wealth and power grew, so did his enemies. He made enemies of the Colombian government, the US government, and even his own cartel members. The more he fought for control, the more brutal he became. Escobar was responsible for the deaths of countless people, including judges, politicians, and even civilians who got in his way. His war against the Colombian government was nothing short of a bloodbath. In 1989, he ordered the bombing of Avianca Flight 203, which killed over 100 people, just to target a rival. He didn't care who got hurt. His goal was to stay on top. But as his empire expanded, so did the pressure on him from all sides. In 1991, Escobar made a deal with the Colombian government to surrender in exchange for a lesser sentence. He would be allowed to build his own prison, La Catedral, which was more like a luxury hotel than a real prison. The prison had a nightclub, a soccer field, and even a waterfall. Escobar ran his empire from behind bars, but this wouldn't last long. The luxury prison became a place where Escobar continued to control his cartel, which caused a growing unrest among Colombia's officials. As violence erupted in the prison, the Colombian government decided to move him to a more secure facility, but Escobar wasn't going down without a fight. During the transfer, he escaped, and this set off one of the largest manhunts in history. The hunt for Escobar involved not just Colombian forces, but also US officials and rival drug lords who wanted him dead. But how would it end? Could Escobar escape again, or was this the end of his reign? The end of Pablo Escobar. On December 2, 1993, after over a year on the run, Escobar's life came to a brutal end. Colombian police, along with US officials, cornered him on a rooftop in Medellin. A gunfight broke out, and Escobar was shot and killed. His death marked the end of the Medellin cartel, but the legend of Escobar lives on. Despite his death, Escobar's legacy is still debated. Was he a villain, or was he misunderstood? He created one of the most powerful criminal empires in history, but he also helped the poor, building schools and homes. Was he a hero to the people of Colombia, or just a man driven by greed and power? The aftermath of Escobar's empire. Escobar's empire may have crumbled, but his story hasn't faded away. His life has inspired books, documentaries, and TV shows like Narcos, which portray the rise and fall of this notorious drug lord. Even after his death, Escobar's influence continues to be felt, both in Colombia and around the world. But one thing remains certain: Pablo Escobar's life was a story of incredible wealth, immense power, and tragic violence. Was it all worth it? Could he have used his resources for something greater? Or was his obsession with control the only thing that mattered to him? What do you think about Pablo Escobar's story? Was he a ruthless criminal or a misunderstood figure who tried to help his community? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating stories from history.